Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, it's been a long day, but I want you to know that this investment of time is going to worth it. Yeah, because attention is also, they tell you to pay attention, right? So attention is also a capital. So as you have been paying attention to all that has been going on, I believe it's a worthwhile investment, which you are going to reap benefit from. All right, so I have the great privilege of moderating this wonderful panel discussion. And we're going to be looking at the subject of accessing funding for digital and physical infrastructure development. To give a bit of a background, infrastructure is very pivotal to almost anything and everything that you need to do. And because of the uniqueness of the digital economy, infrastructure also plays a very critical role. So I was saying somewhere jokingly that before now, factors of production used to be land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So I was telling someone that they need to add data to one of the factors of production now, because I tried to estimate how much I spend on data every month. Then I realized that to be a digital worker, and data is premised on infrastructure that you have, digital infrastructure that you have available to you. So I'm going to start, they say ladies first, so I'm going to start with Terila. Now, given the competitive landscape, how can startups and SMEs effectively position themselves to attract both local and international investors for infrastructure-related projects? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll say one of the first things that you should do to get yourself ready for that is the project preparation.
The key factors that investors will consider.
Factors that investors will consider, exactly. Okay. All right, so I think one of the major things that they would consider is risk analysis, right? Raising finance is all about managing risk. And I would say some of the key risk factors that they would be looking at would be, one, your demand risk, two, especially if it's international funding, FX risk, so currency risk, and then three would be your revenue risk. So looking at cash flows and the return on investment. And I'll say when it comes to cash flows, it's always good to have like three different scenarios for cash flows. So having like a base case, a best case scenario, and a worst case scenario. Because as investors analyze the risk involved in a project, they like to see the different options and see how feasible, right, and scalable it looks like. So risk is very important.
So risk is pivotal. All right, thank you very much. A round of applause for that. All right, so Mr. Debo Thomas, over to you. All right, this question is, infrastructure projects, particularly in developing areas, often face challenges getting funded. You mentioned that somebody told you that if this city was in Lagos or Ibadan, it will have funded, not in Ogbomoso. You understand? So from your standpoint, what are the primary challenges in securing funding for such projects that you have discovered? And how can stakeholders navigate these obstacles?
Thank you.
Sorry, before you go, I'd like to give them a bit of a background, because he has been here and he has done a lot of, bold and audacious things. So I can remember the day we were driving together, and I was asking you that where's the funding for all of it going to come from? And you told me one thing, that funding is the last thing, that it will always come. So I need you to tell us what you know, so that many of us can, can learn from that.
Okay, thank you, the moderator, and I'll say this on a broader scheme of, the concept of funding and data, whichever way you choose to look at it, because one of the major things I've heard people talk about is it's difficult accessing capital and funding, which can be true depending on the way you look at it. But realistically, what I've learned is capital is beyond the money, the cash aspect of it. That the concept is broader. So if you look at it from that angle, you see that what you actually need is available readily. That is what has been the principle me have been operating with from the day I started business. I like to say that the last money I received from, I can say something like a grant, was 13,000 naira. And that was 2002. And since that time, I've not collected from any uncle, anybody to like, okay, to start business. So I'm laying a foundation to make you see that regardless of the scale of what you do, the challenge is always the same. All the businesses I've started, that 13,000, it didn't take me long before I lost the money. I had to now, work around the proper concept of capital, which is beyond money. There's so many things that are not that physical, something that I call them abstract, that we do. So it is your capacity to kind of put all those things together that translates into the physical part of you now having the physical fund that you need to run things. I'll say this, when I started my first business, I said I lost money then. I think for about a period of about 2 years, I was broke. I didn't know what to start. So when I had an idea to run with, my idea see the possibilities of things that can happen. My first step is I like action. I went to everybody I spoke with that I knew then that I had the cash. They were skeptical. One, most of the business I always pitch, I believe that they don't have anything to like, any confidence that I can actually do them because they've not seen me do them before. So I'm always like pivoting to something new. So they're always skeptical. So even though they have money that we can't support this. So, but what I've learned is sometimes no matter how well you try to articulate the vision, people might not see it. So, but you have to first believe in it. And that belief is like the first capital you need yourself. So you believe in the concept of what you are going about, even though nobody is seeing it. You just find a way to get going. So one of the first things I do is I think I've learned to, but this thing is still relative depending on what you do. The concept of using other people's money. I sell what I don't have. So like maybe they do it in real estate, something like off plan. Before I knew what it was, that's what I've been doing. Like my computer business, that was how I started this. I didn't have the computer. And I made the first one to patronize me believe that I had the computer somewhere. That we have a store that I just need little, advance payment to bring it. So that was how I had that thing. And that business became something popular that some people still coming by that business name, Stainless. So I did, then from there, I got bored with that. I wanted to go into real estate, agriculture. So I didn't know how to go about it. And I was thinking about this thing from the point of being broke. And so when I saw the opportunity in farmland, and, as at that time, I'm talking about maybe 13 years ago, farmland was practically like almost free. Because the axis where these lands were, nobody was interested in going there. So they were like, any small amount of money. So I saw something that a lot of people were not seeing. So I went around again, like, I've seen opportunity here. Because I know, somebody said something about Namibia. Namibia is a country almost the same size as Nigeria. Their population is very small. So that showed me the opportunity in land. That land is, like, that showed me the opportunity in land. That land is, like, the most important asset that one can invest in Nigeria because it is very. So now, I had to leverage on what I've always done. The same strategy that I used to start my computer business. Resources, SPS Music, Nokia. That was what I started my land advertising with. So that was how I had the funding for that. Somebody gave me money to buy the land I did not have. So now when it came to this project as well, by the grace of God, we built some financial mugs. I have some other businesses and I've noticed in Velocity is like the coolest deal you can ever have. And so, but I believe so much in it. I said, number one thing is, because we are talking about You might not really get the funding, like in the form of liquid cash. But where it starts is your ability to believe in the vision. Because you communicate sometimes, people will look at you like they will look at you, they will look at the size of the project you're talking about. Like, you have no track record concerning something like that. But you see a lot of doubt that can be discouraging. But your confidence, your belief in that thing.
So confidence is capital.
Is the capital. So it's abstract. It's not the physical stuff. And so far, what we've done so far is being funded mostly by our other sister company that we have. And we've been able to sell land to people that believe in the vision. We've been able, like, off plan. So that is how we've been able to address our funding issues so far.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that it is safer to approach the concept of raising capital from the abstract. It has to start from the abstract.
It's the foundation of everything.
Before it comes to the concrete. That means things are first of all created in one realm before they eventually come to the real realm. Amazing, amazing. Please put your hands together for him. I believe you understand that concept. In other words, whatever it is you want to do, first of all, articulate it and believe so much in it as to be able to tell any and everybody about it. And eventually, the resources you need will come in the process of time. Amazing, amazing. Please, a round of applause again for this and advisory roles. What are some frequent mistakes organizations make when they are sourcing and requesting funds for large-scale projects? And how can some of these mistakes be mitigated?
Mistakes. Bank manager and say, I have confidence, give me money. It's good to balance things. Confidence is good, but beyond confidence, you must build that confidence over something that is backable. And Terila says so much about risk mitigation and all that. So it's very important that whatever you are building, your personality is one of the critical core capital that you are building. Your understanding, your passion, your enthusiasm. When the ladies that took us on the farmlands, the sales pitch, you could almost touch our excitement with what she does. Now let's come back to this. What are the key mistakes? It's almost inexhaustible, but I will talk through few. The critical ones that you see is people believe that once they have an idea, you should just give them money. Most often than not, entrepreneurs come up with this air of arrogance that my idea is the best thing to happen. Therefore, you are lucky that I'm talking to you. So, by the time you ask few questions, at times their pitch deck may just be flawed. And you take a first run on the pitch deck, you could see the lack of proper mismatch. Because the funding type, because today if you've not learned anything, you've learned about grant, you've learned about impact financing, you've learned about diaspora financing, you've learned about fund, and maybe the generics, the bank funding. So you need to be able to situate this project. Was the best form of finance? Then was the optimal finance that will ensure that this project, one, takes off, and not only taking off, post-funding, what of the sustainability? An average funder will be interested in post-funding activities. So what happens? After this money, you've deployed the fund, so what happens? If your project is going to create disaster in the environment, chances are most financiers won't touch you. You may be making money, but they will not want to associate their names with your project. So it's a 360-degree kind of a thing. But the one that most investors or most entrepreneurs do miss is the fact that over exaggeration of what is possible. Risk, like she said, is one key pillar. I mean, I could lose everything. I don't want to lose my money. You know, so I want to look at where are you going to pay back? And what is sustainability of this? I'm also looking at competition. Will you be able to scale? In the next 2 or 3 years, someone talks about corporate governance the other time. Are you me and my son limited? So these things are very important. The people that sits on your board is as important as that business idea. If I do a quick check on your board and I could see a name that has a big question, you've just lost it. Because we will not want to put our brand behind a very questionable name. So there are myriads of questions. It's just necessary for entrepreneurs to do a pre-advisory conversations to say, okay, entrepreneurs should do. Number one, you have an advisor, especially when we are looking at large projects. One, I've heard since morning here, we've been talking about projects, but don't forget, the size of project also matters. If we are talking about digital infrastructure financing, all these one state banks, you could look at the type of project each institution are funded as well. The scope and size also matters before you begin to talk to someone. So once you have done that, this type of meeting I talked about is very important. Number two is this project. You've done the checks about sustainability, you've done the checks about the market, you've done the checks about revenue, you've done the checks about post-disbursement issues. Your corporate governance is okay. It is still nice for you to run it by a professional. And most often than not, at no fees. I mean, they will help you to dissect the pitch deck and then help you provide advisory to that.
Professional, yeah. Seeking professional counsel is going to save you a lot. Please, a round of applause for him. That was very analytical, and I think we need that side. Is Abiola Dabiri joining us online? I heard Abiola Dabiri is supposed to connect with us. Okay, all right. Okay, so, main life. Okay, we move. So back to you, Terila. Investors often exhibit caution when considering projects in developing economies or secondary cities. What specific concerns can prevent them, and what strategies can be employed to ease these concerns? So now we're bringing it home now to secondary cities.
Okay, there's several. One, I would say, and I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about risk, is currency volatility. And that would be very true for Nigeria now. For example, in the last couple of years, our currency has been very unstable. So especially when it's international investors that are coming in, it's a big question mark for them, because that's something they need to work around. And I think one way that can be dealt with or mitigated in some way would be hedging. And with hedging, we don't necessarily have a lot of hedging instruments in Nigeria, for example, so you need to be very innovative around the solutions with hedging.
Like hedging your funds? Pardon? Like hedging your funds?
Yeah, okay. So one way that you can hedge, obviously, would be maybe forward contracts. So by forward contracts, I mean you sign contracts for a fixed rate, right? Another way would be to set up a hedging fund. So if you're able to get people that are willing to contribute into a fund that is used to hedge against FX risk. Another way could be getting either a corporate or individual guarantor. So somebody part of that risk to the end consumer. Unfortunately, part of that risk to the end consumer. Unfortunately, which is why there's now crazy inflation, right? And then with politically, I mean, there's political insurance and all those, but they get really complex. So it's honestly better when there's just a stable and predictable regulatory framework and environment for investors to come in and invest.
Wow, thank you very much. A round of applause for her on that. Now, matters around funding, financing can be a bit boring because it's about the details and the numbers. Accountants are one of the most interesting people, but they must be your friends because the figures are important. Yeah, the average entrepreneur is very adventurous, they just want to jump and all that. But the accountants are very fastidious. They are boring. They stick with the numbers. They do the Excel spreadsheet, and most of them talk so slowly. Sorry, apology to the accountants and the finance guys in the house. All right, so I'll come back to you, sir. Beyond traditional financing avenues, are there emerging or alternative funding models? Maybe crowdfunding, green financing, yes, like you mentioned now, impact investing, that businesses and governments can consider when it comes to infrastructure development, knowing fully well that we have a huge infrastructure gap. So, what are some other alternative sources of financing that government...
I think we should localize that conversation to secondary city like Ogbomoso. Or maybe even for the city is trying to build. In my estimation, one of the best strategy to jumpstart infrastructural development of Ogbomoso is a combination of almost all the financing options.
A little of this plus this.
I said to Kabiyesi as he was stepping out that he needs to spend a different type of currency to jumpstart this development. And he said, what is that? And I said, activate more the network, the relationship. If you are doing a PhD thesis, your objectives must be very clear. And that's where everything rests. Everything. Everything. Your literature, your methodology. So we must be very clear as a secondary city. What do we want to deliver? What comes first? And what this one, does it have multiplier effect to deliver on others? Someone said in the morning that I think it was Ian, that once we build a business that could reach a 1 million turnover, a 1 million USD turnover, then there will be a follow through, an excitement that will have been created. Maybe I'm not privy to that, but I reckon that there must be a document we work with for a secondary city like this. So all the financing options, they are there in the textbooks. But it must be the process of deliberate, intentional harmonization. Which one works best for this and why? Okay. We are starting with this, maybe building a technology backbone, first of all, bury it under the ground. What's the cost of that? How can we tap into diaspora funding? How will they be sure that if they invest in here, they are going to get value? So these are many questions. Like I said last year, ODS 2, there's money everywhere. But money is looking for those people who will be able to treat them well in terms of value creation. They will come more. Amazing. Once generated value, they're going to come more. They're going to get more. Amazing. So the whole
you can do it better. Thank you. All right. Yes. Please, this conversation is very important to this ODS because the theme of this ODS is financing and deploying resources for digital transformation. So I'll come back to you, Mr. Debo Thomas. So local communities and grassroots organizations can play a crucial role in infrastructure projects. How can they be integrated into the funding equation? And what benefit does their involvement bring? I'd like you to answer it from your own understanding, what this can be. Then maybe Terila can support you along the line. You like me to come again? You get me? So I'm talking about local communities, grassroots organizations. They can, how can they be integrated, into playing a critical role in this entire funding and all that?
Okay, thank you. My understanding is if we are looking at getting funding for infrastructural development for maybe a project like our own now. I think one thing that investors, like major thing they would like to see is security of their investment, that the cooperation of the host community is important. Investors will not want a place that maybe after they put that money, now there is this communal clash, maybe on land, and villages are like, used to be a farming land, they get hostile. So that's like, we can just say the money is gone. So what we've been able to do so far is, one, it starts from the point of acquiring the land. For us, we made sure that we acquired the land properly, and we made sure that all the issues that need to be resolved were all resolved. And before we even made any announcement to the public on the project we want to do, we had to have like a stakeholder meetings with a lot of communities, like all the barless, over 20 barless of villages. Not even, they are not even part of their land is not even part of it. Just like, this is the vision. This is what we want to do. You've been farmers all your life. Your children should not inherit this. So what you need is development that can change the landscape of this place, that your children will have new opportunities and all that. So they bought into that and they are excited about it. So instead of them praying for us that it succeed. So that's why when we take anybody there, I think I've taken you to Battle City once. So if that is not settled, we need higher security to follow us in case of anything. So that is critical to fund it, because nobody wants to fund a place that is not secure, that is not safe.
Thank you very much. So Terila, so how do we, from the financing angle, what's the safest way to integrate such local organizations into the entire funding ecosystem?
I'll say stakeholder engagement is key.
Okay.
So you need the buy-in of the community, and you can do it in different ways, depending on the kind of project. You can offer them a stake in the business, or commit to employing people from the community, so that there's some kind of sustenance, financial sustenance for them as well. So, you can do it in different ways, and honestly, it varies depending on the kind of project it is you're doing. But then getting the buy-in of the community and integrating them somehow into the financial ecosystem is what changes the game.
All right, thank you very much. A round of applause for her. That's key. We can take a cue from the Niger Delta experience, though some good, bad, and ugly. But most of these communities already have their own quota when it comes to employment in most of these companies, and quite a number of people benefit from that. So we must replicate the same thing. So this will be the final question, and I will push it to you, sir. So what responsibilities do policymakers and financial institutions have in creating an enabling environment for infrastructure financing? How can they collaborate to foster sustainable development? So this is talking to policymakers and the financial institutions.
Thank you very much. Policymakers they are here in this hall as well. We are all influencers. Quite a number of people have spoken today. Olamide is there. We had Kabiyesi in the morning. Quite a number. I mean, you never can tell. You really, really never can tell. But let's go to textbook format or type of answer that perhaps you are expecting. Government, there is someone that knows someone that knows someone that is in government that takes decision. And most often than not, to the extent that interests play a key role in decision making in governance, to that extent, you need to let specific ministry and or government see the benefit. Like he said, he gathered the barless. That's a form of affecting their decision upfront, so that whatever plan they could have had concerning the city, you've already nipped it in the bud. In the same way, when we are engaging, there's a project that's coming up for secondary city like Ogbomoso, and you know already within the zones in Oyo State, Ogbomoso occupies a place. when we're looking at maybe Ogbomoso axis, we're talking about Iseyin, Ibadan, and all that, and we are coming up with these humongous projects. Someone in government is saying, no, that can't work. In advance, we should have conversations in advance. We are having this type, we can't sit in silo and think that we will get government buying. It's not going to work. So there must be in advance conversation, either with the commissioner, even at the federal level, because there are a whole lot of things that could make happen at the federal level that the state cannot make happen. In terms of, we're talking about technology backbone, for instance, for Ogbomoso. Do you know that is possible, even using federal government might? As an infrastructure, it's not, we're not saying give us money. Let's build, lay the pipes that will carry the traffic in this city. It's possible. So my strategy would be to use a preemptive intervention. Not that when we need something today, then we are talking to them tomorrow. No, it won't work like that. I mean, like this format that someone shared with us when we're talking about the grant structure. There is a code, there is a warm, there is a open, then there is a close. And he explained that one comes by relationship. We must engage those within that corridor of policy. Because, I mean, you can't really function, no matter how beautiful our goals, design, and projects here. If you don't.
Question, yes, I can see one person here. Hello, I can see somebody here. So you tell us your name in 1 minute, please, and the question is articulated so that we can be able to answer.
Thank you. My name is Ogbomoso Digital Economy Summit. I want to direct my questions to my mentor, the Velocity Visionaire.
Okay, I was about to ask because we don't know your mentor, so you just left us.
So, yeah, he talks about, getting funding through abstracts, kind of approach. So I want to ask, in between that, raising funds, he said he started with computers, he sells ideas that is not, physically available. So what are the things you do to bridge the gap? Because when you don't have a computer, somebody wants to buy a computer, you made it seem the computer is ready. So by the time the person now requests for the computer, so what are the things you have put in place? You talk about the land, the same approach. So what are the things you have put in place that makes you to be able to bridge the gap? Because if the person who wants to buy the computer puts the money and the computer is not available, nobody will come again. So what are the things you put in place vis-a-vis even the land issue? What are the things you put in place to bridge the gap between the abstracts and the reality? Thank you.
All right, that is that. Do you have another question? Okay, so let's take the second question, then both of it will be answered. Let's take the second question, then you answer that, and then the other one will be answered.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, my name is Dorothy Abimbola-Antai. Thank you for the enlightening session. So my question is, how about business, don't let me say business owners, how about people with the idea, the big dreams, and then they have it in place? And sir, you mentioned something about one mistake business people have is that they just come to bank managers or the business people out there and then they are like, oh yes, this is the idea I have, and then what do we do when we have the idea, we have the vision, but there's practically, in reality, there's nothing to show for it. We have the dreams out there, we have it written. Who do we go and meet to vet the idea? Who do we go and meet to help us look into it? For people that do not have experience and people that don't have the network, the right network. We literally, our parents are nobodies. We don't have anybody. What are the practical steps that we do? What do we do? How do we go about it? Who do we meet? Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Okay, so let Mr. Debo answer that question then. He's going to answer the other question.
Okay. My take on that is, financial people, financial experts like Dr. Odin, right? I'm afraid if you're a beginner, it's going to be very difficult for you to get expert like him to even consider whatever it is you have. And that can kill your dream. But because they are trained to mitigate risk, and until you get to a point where they are confident that their fund is safe with you, they might not do anything with you. And that is the number one hurdle that entrepreneurs face. And even the big businesses they end up investing in, they are started with a lot of uncertainty. And that is the number one test of any entrepreneur. So now, my take on that is, like what Mr. Ogbomoso asked, if looking at it from the angle of using other people's money, like you don't have the money but you have the idea. Number one thing is to learn as much as possible about that thing. So when you talk, because Nigeria, you have one advantage. A lot of people are ignorant of so many things. So the little knowledge you can gather, just make sure that you sound convincing, then you have integrity, that people give you money, you don't do nonsense with their money. So you go about that, because the thing is this, there is somebody that is thinking of buying something. There's another person that is thinking of selling something. So at the end of the day, what you end up doing is you end up being a middleman. Somebody has it, you don't have it. But you have enough knowledge to, talk to the person that needs it. They might not even know they need it. So you just talk to them from the angle of need, which means your sales key is very, very important. So that is one way that I've been able to navigate my own. And I think the same thing answers the lady's questions too.
Okay, I also like Mr. Oni to, just put icing on the cake for that lady's question.
Okay, I think quite a number of entrepreneurs fall into the size of your market more than your financier. You must size of your market more than your financier. You must have done your research. I mean, it's free. Once you have data, you could do. In fact, ChatGPT could write a business pitch for you in no time, and then you study that. Then another ingredient, and this is usually not in textbooks, is integrity. We are looking at unspoken. Will this guy walk away with my money? He may not tell you, but all the questions you are being asked is looking at you processing your answers, measuring the confidence, looking at all this. How passionate can you make this happen? And some people, some entrepreneurs don't want to put their own skin in the game. You just want 100%. Funding can kill your business. So let's stop this idea of it's money that is stopping me. Money could kill your business. If you get wrong type of money, wrong time, or oversized. He said, if you give me 80 million, no, it was Shehu, if you give me $80 million grant, I won't take, because that will be too much for what it can handle. So optimal, you must have done a lot of research, studying the business, and being able to scale. That month one, I'm sure I will generate. And don't exaggerate, because you look like a liar. By the time they ask you a few questions concerning the pitch you have submitted, and you can't back it up with data, don't forget, they also have experience. Your founder have experience. They funded similar businesses before. So based on that experience, they're asking you, the product expert is asking you questions. So you must also be able to answer as truthful as possible. And once you try to exaggerate your revenue or underestimate your costs, then they know that something is fishy here.
Something is
right?
out of place.
Thank you. And there are houses that will also give you a quick check on your pitch deck. Free. You don't really have to do anything. Within a week, you get a quick feedback, and then you keep reiterating until you get something formal.
Thank you very much. All right. As we wrap up this session, I just want our panelists to just give us 30 seconds closing remarks, 30 to 40. What I want you to do is, I want you to just speak to everybody out there who has a dream and who is looking to get funding, to finance their dreams. I'd like you to just give them a parting word, just like something that they can hold on to as they pursue their dreams, as they pursue getting the necessary resources and funding for their dreams. So like I did the other time, I'll start with the lady. So I'll start with you, just like a 30, 40 seconds parting word for everyone, entrepreneurs, business people, non-profits who have a dream and who are looking to getting the funding for the realization of their dream. Yeah, so just a parting word. Yes.
All right. I would say, as you look for funding out there for your businesses, always accept the fact that you will get some no's out there. It won't always be yeses. And so don't get discouraged when you get no as a response, right? It's part of life. It doesn't mean that your business idea is bad. So don't get discouraged when you get no's. There's so many success stories out there about people getting no's and then eventually getting a yes from someone.
I just got a no while I was saying I just got a no mail for something that I...
Yeah, and then also have a business that is flexible and adaptable to emerging realities, or especially when it's a business idea, right? So it's good to have the ability to pivot if you need to. There's so many innovations out there. I don't know if you guys know Post-it notes. Do you guys know the story about how Post-it notes came about? The inventors, I think it's Spencer and Fry, they were trying to create a very strong adhesive for a product, and it was just a failure. It didn't work as a strong adhesive. And one of the guys decided to try, because it wasn't as strong as they intended for it to be, he decided to try sticking paper on his bookmark in his hymn book. And that was how it came about, because he realized he could take the paper off. It didn't destroy anything, and now it's used in offices. It's one of the most popular stationeries used around the world. So be flexible and adaptable enough, especially if it's a new idea you have, to pivot if you need to, due to emerging realities you may see on the ground.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for us. So be discouraged, don't stop, take the notes, chest them, and keep on going. One day you're going to get there. Yes, Mr. Debo.
All right. What I would say is to just buttress what I said earlier is, no matter how you start, you have to, bootstrap, start from zero and use your faith, do the abstract way of getting things started. If you succeed to get it started, to scale, you actually need to be humble, to learn from the so-called experts that said no to you in the first place. Because to really scale, you need these people. They are the ones with the money. They are the ones that will package you. They are the ones that will teach you how to do things. But if you're not humble enough, you might not be able to do that. Because ultimately, the first money you are going to make or profit should go towards you having capacity to hire minds that are better than you, so that you can have a formidable team that can help you scale to the level that whatever it is you are doing will be significant enough to have the kind of impact that is your desire. Wow. Thank you.
Amazing. So there is the energy that can get you started, but that energy might not be the one that will push you to the next level. So even though you are able to take off comfortably, look out for the additional components that will allow you to stay and then scale. Thank you very much for that. Mr.
I would just say that we should all say something, and intentionally so. There is nothing that says all of us here can set up companies, have a business name around it. Its value will not be created until you go out there to make it happen. And at times we create value unintentionally. For several years, it took me so long a time to know that people could pay me for speaking. I was doing it free for friends, and I just got an email, and someone said, come and handle our retreat, a multinational, and that was the break several years back. Now, it was inherent, and I didn't know. So whatever that passion is, reading, dressing, dancing, cooking, whatever it is, counseling, whatever it is, put business around it.
Amazing.
Just put business around it and talk to someone. This is what I'm thinking. How do I create money out of this.
It's fantastic.
And once you do that, there is help everywhere. Someone wants to help you. Someone wants to mentor you. Someone wants to encourage you so that he or she can be part of your success story. I mean, like Velocity, for instance, I sent him a chart through your website. I love what I saw. And I said, I wish I can just press a button. I was telling Sheung, let's press the button and just put Velocity here in Ogbomoso. And that would be, and imagine the multiplier effect of what will happen in Ogbomoso. Think of what to do within your ecosystem. Imagine we build a blockchain hub in that place because there are no restriction, no light restriction, no data restriction, no insecurity. It just works. And we just have maybe Bitcoin mining. Yeah. Once we have all these things in place, someone needs to kickstart it. The thinking has to start. We got the governance in terms of our KBC who is thinking 25 years. We got the energy of the people. We got this type of gathering every year. Not many secondary cities do have this opportunity.
Amazing.
So let's go there and set up business. Let's sell something. Let's create value.
Wow.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, by the way, sir, for that your speaking business, so I'm the manager, right? I manage speakers. So if you want him to speak at your events, you see me, but collect something first before you see. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful time. A round of applause for our panelists.